theater can work with the consciousness of the community. That it's not about telling a person's story, it's about awakening that larger, the consciousness of the living organism and telling a collective story. And that regardless of what the subject matter is, that's a community health issue. Because in the same way that individuals get sick if we don't express ourselves, so do communities. But we don't have the opportunity to get together as living communities to tell our collective stories. Our dreams, our nightmares, whatever. That Auguste Boal, the founder of the Theatre of the Oppressed, there are a number of things that were really important to him. And one of them that I really agree with is that we are all artists. And I end up working with people who've never thought of themselves that way, ever. And it's incredible inside a process to see that fire get lit, that little tiny flame, when they recognize the artist inside themselves. And are then more able, from a personal place, to be part of a collective process. My request of the actors, please don't do things to educate people. We're really grounded in these characters who aren't you, but who you know really well. They sit right beside you. Just tell the truth. Don't be afraid about upsetting people. Don't try to make people laugh. Don't be an entertainer. Be honest. Yeah, laughter in the theater is a good thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're laughing because it's funny. Sometimes you're laughing because you recognize it's a laughter of recognition.
Yeah.
Sometimes laughter is a tension release. Laughter comes for lots of reasons, right? But one thing it always means is they're paying attention. Is it always means they heard it or they saw it. It means they're paying attention. So laughter is always for me a good thing. That not all conflict is destructive. Conflict can be really creative. Conflict is evolutionary. The task is to be in creative conflict. A rehearsal process is like that. A creation process is like, it's not that you're fighting, but it's not unhealthy to be bumping up against each other. It's human. That can happen in respectful ways that are safe for both of us. And there's tremendous creativity in that, right? Boal used to say that the function of the theater is to make the invisible visible. I think that's true. Why, nothing in the theater is on that stage accidentally, like in the play. Every second, every beat is a choice. And so you get underneath the moments. And so, Frischwa Ahmed and every other play I've done, pen has never gone to paper. Nobody writes a script. That's not how I work. It grows out of really organic improvisational work. What's transformative? It's not the good intentions of the project. Boal didn't call his work Lecture of the Oppressed. And he didn't call it Town Hall Meeting of the Oppressed. He called it Theater of the Oppressed. And the art the artistry is important and that we're all artists. And the response I got was that art is bourgeois. And my response to that was, you should tell that to the people in caves who drew paintings on their walls that documented their dreams and their nightmares and their activities, that was a bourgeois activity. It might have become bourgeois.
Yeah, clearly.
But it's not. The activity is meant to be on the ground. Is that people are motivated by self-interest.
Yeah.
You know, that's not selfishness, it's just human. And so I come back to the relationship with the organizations and them not doing us a favor. The subject matter, whatever that is, that's grown out of a grassroots process, that they're engaging with us out of self-interest.
Self-interest, yeah.
They're not doing it to support the arts. They're doing it because it involves them in their lives. You know, people are people. I learned this as a theater director. There are two motivations. We're either moving towards something we think is going to give us pleasure, or moving away from something that we think is going to give us pain. But when you peel the layers away from what people do, not from what they say, from what they do, it is one or the other. I think that the name of the game at this point in time is honorable collaboration. Is the courage to tell stories about where we are right now, not where we were 50 years ago, but where we are right now. There are so many successful Indigenous people who I know, so many of them. But the people who are highlighted to us aren't those people.
Yeah.
If the only people from any community that we get shown over and over again are people in crisis, then that's who that community becomes. And so a lens needs changing. Email came from First Nations Health. They're trying to work on suicide issues in the north. And I've done a fair bit of that work years and years ago. And they wanted to know if I was interested. And we chatted for a bit. And I wrote back to them and said, years ago, I think it was okay for me to do that. But there's all kinds of people, Indigenous people, who could do that. And I think in the moment we're in today, I'm the wrong person. To walk into that room with all these Indigenous youth, and she wrote back, and she was very grateful for that conversation, and said, "Can you suggest people? I agree with you." There's a lot of buzzwords now about community engagement, right? But I think that has been appropriated by the corporate sector, essentially. Social innovation doesn't happen from the top down. It doesn't function in a 3 to 5 year pre-planned arc. It's on the ground and chaotic, and is step by step based on what's happening around you. it has results that are not measurable. We tend to think that we're prisoners of the structures that we think oppress us. Paulo Freire, in the Pedagogy of the Oppressed, writes really eloquently about how oppressed cultures rise up, fight revolutions, sometimes they win, only to become the oppressors that they were fighting against. Why? That happens. It's happened throughout history. Why? I think nature teaches us one of the reasons why. And it's because we think that we're prisoners of the structures and that we have to defeat the structure. Well, those structures didn't come from outer space. We grew them. Nature teaches us that it's patterns of behavior that create structure, not the other way around. And we live, 90% of us here in Vancouver in such privilege. When do we take responsibility for that privilege? And reach out to the people around us. There's a part of me, because I hear that Vancouver's a very alienated place. Take responsibility for it. Don't expect people to break through your isolation. There's a human responsibility that people have forgotten, that we actually are all connected.